All right, welcome back to the Cheech and Manny Music Show, or the Cheech and Manny Show, sometimes it's known as also the True Crime Show. I am Manny. I go by Mr. O for certain people. I'm with my esteemed co-host Cheech Carrero, the people's bassist. What's going on, Cheech?
Not much, Manny. How's it going? How's everything, man?
Oh,
How you
dude, man,
doing?
life is good, brother. If you can tell by my dress, summer's out. I mean,
Yeah.
summer.
Yesterday was a freaking hot day, man. Oh my God. The
For those
record break. I think it broke a record.
No, I think it was like record high temperatures. And for those not in the know, we're from Connecticut, and over here we're experiencing like record temperature heat. Now today finally it's cool. Not
Yeah.
just really crazy how that happened. And I know we wanted heat, but I feel like Connecticut turned up the heat way too much.
It, you know what it is? It happens too quick.
Yeah.
It was like cold for the whole month of May, and then it turned into this hot, crazy, weather.
Yeah.
Um, but of course, somebody's trying to call me. They're in this, but I know we're on a time. We're on a time schedule, so for today.
Yeah, man. So let's just get started. So this is going to be sort of like a free form episode where you, the audience, get a peek in and some of our conversations that we'll have off screen. You know,
Yeah.
for those not in the know, we met at this place called the Temple.
Yep.
Code name for a certain place that shall not be named.
Yep.
Voldemort and Harry Potter shall not be named.
Exactly.
And we are going to be discussing so much fun stuff. I cannot wait. And then tomorrow, we're going to be filming Led Zeppelin's In Through the Outdoor with Mr. Joe Silkman. So get
The long awaited In Through the Outdoor, man.
which, by the way, dude, I love that album. I,
It's
I
amazing.
think it's better than Presents, but that's a hot take.
Well, that is definitely a tough one. I'd have to
Joe is
really,
going to be like, wow.
yeah. I mean, uh, me, I don't want to give away too much. I think it might be one of the weaker albums, except, ex, except for, what you call it, Fool in the Rain and All of My Love. In the evening. Other than that, I skipped through almost every song.
Oh, dude, I have to admit, and we'll save it there 'cause I cannot
Yeah.
wait to hear Joe's opinion too. But I'll be honest with you, I thought every track was perfect.
I
Like,
mean, it's good. It's just Zeppelin changing, going into the 80s.
oh,
But
geez, I
they're
think if they continued this sound, dude, they would have hit it big. It,
either that or they would have lost a lot of fans because a lot of critics felt they lost their edge. Because it got more. Well, the big problem with this album, I think, we're giving it away, but
well,
Jimmy
actually,
Page,
don't give it away. Don't give it away.
but Jimmy Page didn't have a lot to do with it, and everybody knows he's the brains behind. He's everything. He's everything behind Led Zeppelin.
Well, actually, we'll touch on it, but the point is, like, I definitely had no picks on my top 10. I regret it because we'll talk more about it on the Into the Outdoor episode. But Casa
Yeah,
Ladra, I freaking love that song.
I like it. Is that the one with all the keyboards?
I love the keyboards. Like, if
It's
I'm
almost like it's almost a little like experimental on John Paul Jones, like with the you know. I have to say though, two of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs of all time are on the album. All
well,
of My Love.
and they made your list,
Yeah.
which I remember
So
my list.
you
I
know,
didn't pick any like
it,
songs from like Presence or Into the
I
Outdoor.
mean, it goes. It's like Rush. Like would I rather hear Hold Your Fire or Hemispheres or 2112 or Roll the Bones? No, I rather hear the old stuff. Led Zeppelin 1, 2, 3, 4, Houses of the Holy,
Right.
Physical. Present and Into the Outdoor are my least listened to, you know, Zeppelin albums on my playlist. But I do like specific tracks from from their album.
Right.
I definitely love, Nobody's Fault But Mine and stuff like that.
Right. And I guess we'll talk more about it. So
Oh yeah, yeah,
look forward to that. And but I will say just on one final note with the Led Zeppelin Into the Outdoor is I find it is a good swan song though. especially the last track. I'll be honest with you, the last song on Into the Outdoor is majestic. I think it's one of their greatest things they've
What
ever
song is
done.
that? It's been a while since I did this episode.
Right now, I'm actually. It's funny because when I know it, and then when we go live, I forget.
Yeah.
It's like our remember our John Anderson like
Oh
fiasco.
God.
Um, but and again, I look forward to that out there. Led Zeppelin has been such an adventure. I love it. I've been listening. I've been binge listening into the out there and finding that I love it. And I'm gonna crawl. It's.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is a
I'll be
good song.
honest with you. If anything, I know there's another hot take. This song is my new favorite Led Zeppelin song. It is so
Yeah,
majestic,
it is
so
a good song.
bittersweet, so sad.
The
That's
one about it's about Texas, I think. It has a weird meaning. It's
I don't even
really
know what.
bizarre.
We can't wait to explore it. And then
Yeah,
obviously Carusa Lambra, which I love so much.
yeah,
And the other one that I really love is Southbound Suarez. So anyway, so
yeah.
again, those are my hot takes. Those
It,
are my top 10.
I think for me, these are high school albums, like present. So
Well,
I
Cheech,
listen
Cheech, do you think it requires a certain maturity to appreciate Into the Outdoor? What do you think?
to. I think if you're a hardcore Zeppelin fan, it's kind of like Sabbath. Like, all right, Sabbath's first album is classic, and then you
Right.
go up to Technical Ecstasy. A lot of people hate it because it changed production. It sounds different. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I like the harder. I love everything Led Zeppelin does, up to the Firm. Joe's gonna kill me. I'm not a Robert Plant solo fan.
Well, I did hear, and I guess we'll leave it for tomorrow at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
But look forward to that. I
yeah.
cannot wait to talk more
It,
about.
it is a great album. It wouldn't be up in my top. Like, I would go Zeppelin 1 through Physical Graffiti as my top five,
That's the
and
classic.
and then these two would be after it. But great album. Great. John Paul Jones is the genius behind all this. He's the genius on that.
And there's actually, remember that and just one more thing for our audience out there. The Led Zeppelin documentary, I think it's called Becoming Led Zeppelin. I think it's
Yeah.
out on Netflix. So definitely watch it. I
Oh,
recommend it. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's
oh
fantastic.
yeah, I saw it. It was great. It was great.
I get it since Led Zeppelin was such cool guys. I mean, honestly, they're geniuses for what they were. And so John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page. Those two.
I'm gonna go out there and say something controversial. And me and my cousin Henry and I know me and Rob always had this debate. I think Led Zeppelin is the greatest rock band in the world. I'm
Okay.
gonna even say more than the Beatles in my
Okay.
world.
Yeah, maybe no,
And that's
dude. In the
that's
future, we should do a debate. Like, now I will admit, Led Zeppelin. I know I know they got a lot of flack from like stealing from the black man and all that. Like,
yeah.
I get it, but the thing is,
Well, I
again,
hope Devontae's not watching.
well, the thing is, again, even like Latino or whatever, like
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like Led Zeppelin. Now, first of all, the Beatles. There would if there are no Beatles, there's no Led Zeppelin.
No, I agree
I,
100%.
I think the Beatles were insane. But here's the thing though, the Beatles are different. Led Zeppelin took the original rhythm and blues, jazz, rock formula.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, no band took it to where they did.
No.
They're the pinnacle of rock. And
Yeah.
that being said, you have bands like Queen, you have bands like Bad Company, you have bands, even the prog rock bands like Genesis, but they
Oh
took
yeah.
that more into the more jazzy, more intricate musicianship. But Led Zeppelin kept like the Delta blues, rhythm and blues, Muddy Waters blues, John Lee Hooker. They took all that
Oh yeah. Yeah.
pinnacle, and then after that, they couldn't literally like the Led Zeppelin, the blimp.
Yeah.
They can't take it anymore. They reached the
No.
height. It was so I agree with you. I think Led Zeppelin is in rock music and in just general music.
Yeah, I don't think anyone. I mean, Rush is God to me, but I don't think you can compare anybody to Led Zeppelin. There's no band. I mean, the big three, Sabbath and Deep Purple, but Zeppelin would always be number one, and all for the reasons. Zeppelin is number one for like what they did and how big they got. Sabbath is innovative of that evil doom rock
Yep, yep.
kind of sound, and
And metal pioneers.
yeah, definitely heavy metal pioneers and Deep Purple neoclassical music between John Lord and Richie Blackmore. They took that to the next level. So those are the big three. If you're out there and you're new to classic rock, those are the big three. Zeppelin being number one. And then, Rush is still the greatest band in the galaxy. I just have
Oh,
to
no,
say
no
that,
doubt.
no matter what. But without Rush, without Zeppelin, there'd be no Rush.
I know none of you would agree with this. I always say that the first album literally sounds like Led Zeppelin.
Oh, it totally does.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. And I remember from the documentary, they were trying to copy Led Zeppelin. That was their goal.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were not interested in like progginess. Now they
No.
discovered it, and that's when they changed their sound and then they became the greatest band in the galaxy, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
especially with Neil Peart, who's the greatest.
Well, when the album came out in Cleveland, people were calling up saying, "Is that the new Led Zeppelin?" It's a little bit heavier. The production is heavier than any Led Zeppelin album, the
Well,
first Rush
because
album.
and because again, that metal pine Rush are metal
Metal
pine.
pioneers. I agree. I'd put them under the Sabbath umbrella
Yep.
more than the Zeppelin umbrella because they were
Impressive
heavy.
steel.
Oh, definitely. But Zeppelin, like, and I don't mean any diss to the Beatles. The Beatles are the greatest. But if I was
I'm in that camp.
if I was to pick, if you said to me, let's listen to, if I was with you and we had a couple of beers and you're like, what do you want to hear? Let It Be or Led Zeppelin 2. I'm like, Led Zeppelin 2, Manny.
I'll put on Let It Be. It's funny though, but I think that's the great.
Wait, what did you say? I'm gonna put some bad replies underneath that. What are you saying?
Oh man, no negativity out there.
No.
Uh,
See, that's the
but
beauty.
no, that'll be a great debate. Maybe one day on a future Joe and Cheech and Manny show where we debate who are the greatest and like and each give reasons. Like we give our.
That's a great one. Yeah, I would go with Zeppelin. Like,
I
I mean,
think Joe will say
Beatles.
Zeppelin too.
Beatles, and please, people don't hate me. The Beatles invented music, rock music, and even Jimmy Page said it in the Led Zeppelin 3 interview. Something like, "We want." Are you inspired by the Beatles? And I think he kind of said he was, but he wanted to get to the level, reach as many people as the Beatles did.
And he did. He
Yeah,
accomplished it. And
yeah,
I'll be honest with you, Led Zeppelin don't have much, like, don't get me wrong. I always felt like the Beatles were very pretty music, Baroque influence. Zeppelin doesn't have it. That's what I'm saying. Zeppelin took the Delta blues formula.
yeah,
Dude, and again, I hate to say, it's not that they stole, mind you, they should have gave credit for sure. I
yeah.
We should have gave credit. This is before the computer age. And I think they were young kids. You had to remember they were young. Who
Oh,
would have
yeah.
thought? I just love music. I just want to
19, 20 years old. They
yeah,
weren't, they were there.
just think about getting sued and everything. You're just making music.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I don't think they stole, but what they did is they took the Delta blues and the blues and rhythm and blues to its pinnacle. And
Oh, definitely.
after Led Zeppelin, after Physical Graffiti, I'll be honest with you, there was a change in music, and we're going to talk about it in a future episode. Punk,
Yeah.
the rise of prog, also, and also just in general, new wave that's coming in.
Disco, new wave. Oh, you hear a lot of new wave on In Through the Outdoor, but we'll save that. There's a lot of new wave sounds and production because Video Killed the Radio Star had just come out.
Right.
And that was a big, like,
And the
new
eventual rise
sound.
of MTV.
What's that?
The eventual rise of MTV.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. Which involves our man, the boss. He
Speaking of the boss,
yeah.
I would add Bruce Springsteen is the greatest, better hot take here, but I think Springsteen is greater than the Beatles and
Wow.
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, just going to cause a little hate comments down there. No, no,
Yeah.
no, just kidding. Don't hate. I'm just kidding. But
Well,
speaking of the
we could
boss,
we could make an announcement. We're definitely, and I'll tell the story. The next path we're gonna take, like we did with Rush and Led Zeppelin and True Crime, is going to be on Bruce Springsteen.
yeah, I can't wait.
Because I was doing research for Desire by Bob Dylan. I wrote that episode, which we're gonna have the great Joe Silkman on as well.
Oh, and pause. So just one more announcement. Desire with Mr. Joe Silkman is coming out too. So I also have so many thoughts on that album.
Oh God, yeah, that might be Blood on the Tracks or Desire. I'm going back and forth.
I'll be honest with you, and now I see why Joe was he was saying that ISIS, for example, is his greatest no, his most favorite Dylan song, and now I can see why. Just and now
Yeah,
my favorite Dylan, I'll be honest with you, I think, and we'll save it for Desire, but all I'll say is Desire is probably the last great Dylan album.
I
And
love Sarah. I think that's a beautiful
yeah,
song.
yeah.
And Joey. The song Joey is amazing too. But when I kept going to YouTube to listen to the songs to analyze them, I kept seeing the Bruce Springsteen, trailer, and I'm like, fuck, I got to send this to Manny, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna break my thought. I'm gonna break my thought. So I got, I kept doing Desire, and finally I sent it to you, and you're like, holy cow, this is about Nebraska. This is his era in Nebraska. And then I'm like researching it, and I'm like, okay, it's time to do Bruce Springsteen because he's so much like Dylan.
Yeah.
They're like parallel, and a parallel universe to each other. And then he obviously he goes on to 80s stardom and stuff. But we'll talk. I gotta basically this episode is free form, but we're gonna talk a lot about Springsteen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interview Manny because that's his expertise.
I
You
love Spring.
know,
Yeah.
we'll recap the Manny Grossman episode and the Son of Sam stuff because that was a great episode and a little bit of chaos on there, but it was great. Before we jump into any of this, anything on your mind? Anything else you we should talk about?
No, I think just one more thing. We've been just on the Son of Sam, like I just want to say like that was so much fun. And we've
Oh
been
yeah, yeah,
I want to give a shout out to my brothers who have been complimenting on the series, and they're saying that they love the turn we took. And I feel like we're definitely going to do more of it, but less
oh yeah,
drama. We're not
yeah,
about drama. And once again, I think I don't know what you would say with my thing with true crime is to learn how to protect oneself from like these like horrific psychopath murders and to understand dark humanity and dark
yeah,
psychology. I think that's the end of it. It's not about drama. It's not like I kept saying, like, I have no weight in anything or theories. I don't go down rabbit holes. I like to talk about them, but
yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it was really fun. And I know you lived your dream,
Oh
interviewing
yeah. Well,
heroes.
I think the next true crime will be interweaved with Bruce Springsteen. It's the Starkweather.
Yeah.
We'll definitely we'll do him because of the connection. We'll get into
By
the
the way,
we'll get into Nebraska where he was from, Starkweather.
you know what's crazy? Just one thing also, um, I talked about Joe and Desire. Yeah, I think we're good. I think that's it from me. How about you? Oh, how's your
Uh,
band doing? It's Pottersville.
we're doing good. Things are going good. You know, um, rehearsing and stuff. Gonna play next week. Everything's going good with Potter's Field. Hung out with my beautiful daughter today. And just going to the temple.
Hmm.
Oh, here's something funny. So, about Devontae and I told you the conversation we had. Who would get noticed first, LeBron James or Bob Dylan, if they walked into the temple? You know, and throw Bruce Springsteen in there, and we just had a huge, and I said I don't know, it's like so many young kids out there, they probably wouldn't even know who Bob Dylan is.
If it's nah, I don't think so. And I
Yeah,
guess it depends on context. 'Cause I know at the Temple there are a lot of basketball fans. I know anytime there's some sort of athlete, everyone makes a big deal out of it.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, who?
I've waited on these people. I don't know any modern day
You
athletes.
know who was one really surprising one, Cheech? Ron Howard. Do you remember?
Oh, I met him many
No,
times.
and it's crazy. He's so low key. Only I would know him because, and
Mhm.
you would know him,
Yeah.
but the most people did not. He could just go in there, and they don't realize this is the dude that directed the movies like The Grinch.
I,
He directed all these classic movies. Works in Hollywood.
I met him right after the Da Vinci Code came out. And I went up to him and I said, Mr. Howard, I don't want to bother you. He's with his kids. I said, the Da Vinci Code is genius, and you got the Knights Templar stuff down. I loved it. And he was like, oh, thank you so much. Real humble. Like
Yeah.
I talked to him for like almost 15 minutes.
No, I not do it. No, I actually had talked to him. I haven't seen him since, but to be fair, I don't work at the temple any longer as I used to. But also,
Let me
going
just say,
back
and
to
I
the
still
debate.
made him laugh because I said my inner child is freaking out because I'm meeting Richie Cunningham.
Right. Right, right. And that's how everyone knows him.
Yeah.
But going back to the debate, I think LeBron, everyone would know. Bob
Yeah.
Dylan, not so much. Only the old heads, you know. And Bob Dylan has aged kind of like badly in a way, and so he's,
Yeah.
he's yeah, again, I'm not judging him. He hasn't aged, you know. He looks like one of our old timers at the temple you would see. Springsteen would get recognized by like anyone 30 and up, I feel.
Oh yeah, I think
Well,
so.
which is that depends. But I think LeBron would win because he's everywhere. He was on that movie Space Jam,
Yeah.
advertisements. He's
Yeah.
considered one a legendary basketball player. So,
Yeah.
they came
Yeah.
in at the same time.
You know.
One would get all and I think Bob Dylan wouldn't be mad about that, I think. I think he would
No, it was just a joke, you know. And a shout out to our boy Tyrese, who is now a Bob Dylan fan
I'm
because
happy.
of us and his friend. And he's a 22-year-old kid who, you know, is just a guy at the temple, and he got into Dylan, and that's our goal, you know, to convert. We're like the Jehovah Witness of music, you know, to convert people over to our side, and like
It's
for
never a
instance,
goal.
not to bring up, you know, I'll bring up the Son of Sam. I've made friends with a certain person we talked about. I'm not going to say his name, who is the biggest person in the Son of Sam world. Let's put it that way. Okay. And we've talked a lot, and I've sent him a lot of the Bob Dylan stuff. And he's a fan of Bob Dylan. And he basically was like, you know, thank you. And I said, check out these obscure albums because that's what me and Manny are trying to do. And he's like, yeah, I never really got into this. I'll check it out. So, you know,
You know what's crazy? Cheech, I remember I kept talking to you about Blood on the Tracks. I kept like even Springsteen, I kept hounding you, like you need to listen to these records.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
again, even you, like you knew just the popular stuff, right? But you don't
yeah.
once you do deep dives on these albums, you realize, man, you find so much in there.
Well, you got me on it always happens, Manny. It's like we'll get into something. I'll see the trailer. I'll send something to you, and you're like, "Holy shit!" You know. And then I'm like, Nebraska. Then I looked up Nebraska. I looked up like 5 interviews about Nebraska on Springsteen, and I'm like, dude,
Even the story.
yeah, we're gonna do Nebraska. Then we're gonna do the 2 albums before that, and
I
then
love it.
Born in the USA.
I love it.
That's
Yeah.
my obsession.
I think that's gonna be so I can't wait. And couldn't come at a perfect time.
Yeah, you know that movie's coming out in the fall and everything.
Right.
So yeah, you want to get started?
Let's get started. We're live on the air.
Yeah,
I'll let you do your thing. And again, this is a free form episode. I think we're gonna have a lot more of these in the future.
yeah, yeah,
At the end of the day, I think I like to see our shows like a radio show, like those classic shows where we just tune in and and
yeah.
if you walk away for our audience out there, like the shout out you made, if we managed to have someone listen to some of the music we're talking about, we did our
Oh,
Jehovah Witness goal.
definitely. Oh, you know, let's talk about the movie. Bruce Springsteen movie.
Yeah.
Deliver Me from Nowhere, with an actor named Jeremy Allen White. I don't know much about him, man.
So I'll be honest with you, this movie could be big just because of that actor. He's famous. He's a rising star. The actor's name is Jeremy Allen White, and he was in this show. First of all, just for our audience out there, and I haven't seen this stuff, but he's been on shows like The Bear,
Oh yeah, I've heard of
which
that.
is, dude, everyone loves that show. I have to see it. He's been on movies like The Iron Claw, right, based on the wrestling that came out a couple years ago, and this comedy drama series called Shameless. So
Oh, I know Shameless.
I'm happy he's
What
playing Springsteen because he's
was
gonna,
he on Shameless?
huh?
Who did he play on Shameless? Because I was into
I
that show.
I have no idea, but I saw my siblings watch him, and I saw him in that show.
Okay, that had to be when he was just like starting out, I think, because that's old, that show.
Oh yeah, but my point is that my point is that I love how he was casted because now young kids are gonna watch this movie because of his
Yeah, that's the
role.
genius of the producers and the directors who
Mhm.
do that. Um, so yeah, look forward to that. So it's about Nebraska album and what Bruce was going through. Similar, I got to compare him to Dylan because they run parallel.
Yep.
Right before now, Dylan went through because Bruce was going through this midlife crisis, which we'll talk about there in Nebraska. Dylan went through a midlife crisis right after the John Wesley Harding album and in the Basement Tapes, but he got into a motorcycle accident. So I don't know if that had to affect him, or was he just going through
Well,
something, with his, like, he was getting remarried and having kids.
wait, you're talking about the infamous motorcycle crash?
Yeah, like because
Well,
Dylan.
that's one of the mysteries of rock and roll. It's one of
Yeah,
the mysteries. What happened in that even that period is strange because Dylan was, dude, he records Blonde. So first of all, he, but he, all his folk albums are insane. Okay, then he decides to go that left turn in the rock and blues kind
yeah,
of genre and more that outlaw rock, I call it,
yeah,
with the Bring It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, and then finally the Majestic Blonde on Blonde. Dude,
yeah,
any artist would like would want his success. He's on the rise,
yeah,
and then gets in a motorcycle accident and then disappears from pretty much anywhere. He stops touring
yeah,
and he releases he releases John Wesley Harding, which
yeah.
it's a challenging listen if you're not used to that kind of folk sound. Especially coming from Blonde on Blonde.
It it's so similar to Bruce. With Bruce, it, you know,
Yeah, which going back and crazy, they double album and then just
yeah, the river was a double album.
it's a
You know,
double album.
so
Right.
that the next Nebraska's after the river. So and Blonde on Blonde was a double album, and then John Wesley Harding comes out. So it's crazy. It's nuts how it's almost the same story in a way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so we have so I just wanted to compare that. And what I love about the movies, both Dylan and both Bruce Springsteen that's coming out, it takes place in a period of their life. It's not a documentary about, oh yeah, he was born on this day and then he went up to fame. It's just a period. Nebraska.
As I think a film should be that way though, because it's too much. Like
Yeah,
unless it's like a Jimi Hendrix type, where they died early. But yeah,
right,
I
right.
agree with you. I like the slight. It's like one of these slices in the artist's life.
Yeah, and I really like that. Okay, so before I get into the rough questions, here. So just let me just throw this at you. So why this album? It was a stripped down acoustic lo-fi album, harmonica and guitar. Okay, why this album? Because before this, the guy was on top of the world.
Right.
Born to Run, 1975. Just the song Born to Run. That's all I need to say. You know,
Yeah.
Dark,
That's it.
you know, Darkness on the Edge of Town. You don't even have to say anything about the album. Just look at the cover. It's like the coolest fucking guy in the world. You don't even
Dude,
like say anything,
it's so iconic.
you know. What was it? Badlands was on that one. And then you have The River, 1980, Hungry Heart, Fade Away, Cadillac Ranch, now Nebraska. So tell me why. He's got these giant albums. He's a rock star. He made it. He's an icon. He's selling out arenas. Why this? What happened?
Okay, so I think I'm just gonna quickly. You already mentioned it, but so Springsteen, when he started as a sort of new Bob Dylan. So when he got signed to Columbia Records, they wanted a new Dylan, right? They were hungry for it.
Yeah.
And Springsteen, and I forgot, it was his manager or somebody that recognized his talent and his style of writing lyrics was very similar to Absurd Dylan, like, absurd characters, absurd stories. So you have Greetings from Asbury Park, his debut, and then the E Street Shuffle,
Right.
The Wild, the Innocent, the E Street Shuffle. Um, these records are very interesting. Like my favorite is, um, and again, just because I'm giving you context here, the Wild, the Innocent, the E Street Shuffle is my favorite. It's fantastic, but it's not. It's very weird. It's very his lyrics are all over the place,
Yeah.
very eccentric, very like hippie Dylan.
I guess he was like developing and stuff.
Yeah. Then Born to Run puts him on the map, and dude, he went and he sharpened his songwriting, right? So again, this third album, he realized, okay, I need to make a record that is grand that will get me, where I want to be a rock star.
Right.
Once I did it. Then he got a little dark on darkness on the edge of town because he got to the top, but sadly he was fighting legal disputes between his former manager, Mike Appel. So he was stressed out with that. So obviously he was getting bitter, and you hear it on that album. That
Yeah.
being said, huge album, huge. And in my opinion, it's probably the hot take, but I think it's better than Born to Run. Then in
Really?
1980, he releases The River, which at that point is dude, this album is so big. He scores his top 10 hit with Hungry Heart. He's on top of the world.
Yeah.
Double album, very similar to like Dylan, right?
Hmm.
And I love it. I love the record. I think it's definitely my greatest double album. And already on this album, he started to once again continue that dark songwriting where
Yeah.
and by the way, he got influenced by country music too, which is
Right. Right.
um
And you hear it on the river. You hear the sadness on the song. I love that song.
100%. And maybe there's a country cover to, I'll probably find one and see. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I agree with you. So he's huge, right? And then in 1982, so 1980 to 1982, what happened? Well, Springsteen's at the top. I mean, the guy's probably getting fame, money,
Yeah.
he wins his legal dispute. He's happy. And that's why The River has two sides where the happy rock songs,
Hmm.
the continuing of the darkness on the edge of town, lyrical content. So he's huge. But he starts going into a depression.
Mm.
And the newfound media attention, he was everywhere. He was on magazine covers. He became like
Oh yeah.
I get it. He's in America. He's from New Jersey, American rock.
It was like girls loved him, guys wanted to be him.
Yeah,
He was the quintessential rock star,
yeah.
and he was a regular guy.
Well,
He
no,
didn't
no,
look
yeah.
like Robert Plant.
No, 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 no. And by the way, that's why when I was growing up in high school, and again, I'm going to answer your question quick, but I just want to say I actually thought Springsteen was cooler than Robert Plant. I thought Robert Plant was cool, but
Yeah,
sort of like a little strange. Like I saw Springsteen, and even in his early, he knew how to dress. He was like the band. He wore like really great clothing,
yeah,
very masculine. He had a great
yeah,
beard,
yeah,
and I wanted to be just like him. Like, so
yeah,
you're right. Like, he. But so what happens? Probably like what happened to Dylan. He realized like I don't know, I'm at the top of the world, but I'm not happy, right? And the supporting tour, he went on a massive tour. Like, dude, he was on top. There was filling out stadiums and everything. But then that fame made him reconsider his role as an artist. He was like, I'm not satisfied. I'm not even satisfied with the music I'm making. And he's creating like magic, right?
yeah,
So the River success led him to be very conflicted, right? It led to very conflicted feelings about being separated from the people he grew up with. So he was from a small town, New Jersey, right? There's a song called Fourth of July Sandy that is a loving take on his hometown, right?
right,
So in this way, he also misses home, like
yeah,
he misses his people, and the lyrics are just he goes in this depression. And at the end of the tour, the river tour, he rents out a ranch in New Jersey. I think it's called Colts Neck, New Jersey,
hmm,
in 1981. Now, while there, he kind of did what we do, where he immersed himself in American history,
right, right,
books like we do, like with the Son of Sam and stuff,
hmm, yeah,
film. He started watching great films in search of stories for use in his songs, right? And this is important because this is going to set up what's going to happen on Nebraska. And he read books such as he read like a Woody Guthrie biography, and again, Woody Guthrie had an influence on Dylan back in the '60s, right?
and he also read uh Flannery O'Connor.
Which is really
Like,
important.
very
Yeah.
hard to find. Yeah.
Yeah. And he saw films like John Ford's The Grapes of Wrath, aka John Steinbeck,
Hmm.
Terrence Malick's Badlands, and all this great stuff. But again, this is like and the Vietnam vet autobiography, which I think was made into a film starring Tom Cruise, Born on the Fourth of July,
Oh, that's a great movie. Oh
which
man.
will influence his Born in the USA. But he read the book, and then that book was adapted into a movie. And
So sad.
um, but again, he started to and because and this sort of it's sort of like a Freudian moment where he started to reflect inside, and also like us got into dark crime, true crime novels, like you said, the Gothic stories of Flannery O'Connor,
Got into
and really important, Bob Dylan, Hank Williams. He started binge listening to these two, which he already was starting to, but
and
because of this,
Charles Starkweather, which is like an insane one of the first serial killers, is the one of the themes of the name of the album. That's
yep.
what struck my ears. I'm like, okay, wow, this is like insane. I love my love for true crime, and I was like, now I'm really into this.
Yeah. No, and just to wrap this up, he records. So what he decides to do is he decides to record the new songs as solo demos, as most artists do, right? Like especially
Yeah,
with technology. I know he had a 4-track tape, so he started recorded, getting ready. And the reason why, and mind, this is really important. The reason why he did this because he's always annoyed about how long it takes to record in the studio. Because
yeah,
musician knows you got to rent out a studio, you got to call up everybody, you got to, it's all this
yeah,
stuff. You know what? Let me just record now that I'm in this great mindset. So records these demos. He wants to re-record them with the E Street Band, and again, and he meant the recordings to jumpstart the E Street Band, right?
right,
Let's get recording. Let's get in the studio,
yeah,
and he, in his words, trying to be more efficient, trying to spend less money because they don't want to just rent the studio and just like, all right, nothing happened, nothing productive, right? So he records these songs in a simple 4-track tape, and again he does a bunch of tracks. I think he did like 17, like he did a bunch, and then goes to the E Street Band, and I think it was one of the E Street Band members' houses, I think, or something,
yeah,
to rehearse, and and again, the band was excited. These two were like, yes, love the material.
yeah,
They recorded versions of like, what many of the songs would show up on Born in the
yeah.
USA.
I recorded Born in the USA actually.
Well, it happened. It was starting. So most of the recording songs, the recording sessions or songs will end up on Born in the USA in 1985. But Springsteen was not satisfied with the
Mm,
recordings, right? And he actually preferred the sound on the 4-track cassette tape. Like,
yeah,
and it's funny you said that he carried it in his jeans pocket, like, and so he's probably listening to throughout the time.
I
And
read that in an interview. Said an interviewer said, "Weren't you scared you were going to lose it? Like, what happened if you lost that? You know what I mean? Like all that work and all that stuff."
yeah, yeah, but yeah, for sure. And again, but he wasn't satisfied. He thought that the full band versions, and mind you, the East Street Band they're one of the most legendary backing bands, right? It's
Yeah,
like the band that backed up Bob Dylan. But when they touched his songs, he didn't like the sound. He didn't like any of it, and he didn't like the arrangements. And so he was starting to think, okay, maybe I'll do another double album like Dylan, where maybe half, E Street, half solo acoustics,
yeah.
right? Because
Now let me just say something. This is very similar to what Bob Dylan did with the
oh,
basement.
the parallels are very strange
Yeah,
and uncanny.
crazy.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And again, the full band version failed to capture the spirit of the demos, which he felt. Now, mind you, this Springsteen took a executive decision to release these as its own album, the tapes. And again, they were mastered a little bit for sure. Because again, you know this, when one records demo tapes, I mean, they're awful. Noise
Oh, well,
reduction,
yeah,
they're
you
not
got,
ideal, and that's the basement tapes,
yeah,
demos.
yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, yeah,
But that's the story. And then against his label, releases this album as it is. And these are the original. Some of the now he I think we recorded 17, but he released a good majority of it. And and again, and I know one of the bootlegs that are legendary are the recording sessions the E Street Band did. I'm not sure if it was released, but um, the acoustic album, which will be titled, and I got in the background,
Nebraska.
Nebraska, became Springsteen's first and only album he made without knowing he was, like this weird thing where he bootleg, you know,
Yeah,
the rest of his acoustic stuff he'll record professionally, but this is
yeah.
And again, and this was so risky.
It's almost
Yep.
like artistic suicide. You know, the label's gonna be like, we're not putting this out because it's 1982 and like Steely Dan just put out Asia, and you have digital recordings coming out now. Everyone's going digital. Rush is going digital. All these great bands. Why are you doing this? Why are you going back to Robert Johnson? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a great point. That haunting, like, and actually that's a great comparison. And it's crazy. And with another crazy thing about this Cheech is that, dude, no promotional work for this record. And he
Really?
had this weird idea where listeners should experience it for themselves. And again, to give credit to Springsteen, I mean, he wasn't top of the world, so he knew he could get away with this.
Yeah.
But even then, it's risky, and the material on the album is not like he was already exploring these themes on like the darkness on the edge of town and the river, right?
Yeah.
Here he takes the stories to their most depressing. The characters are losers, they're the outcasts. And but that's the story of the to answer your question, Cheech, that's how this album came about in 1982.
Amazing, man. Now, did he tour with this album?
No.
Oh, okay. So he did like once again like a Dylan.
Yep.
You know, puts it out. Now, okay, you covered a lot. That was amazing, Manny. Amazing.
I love Springsteen, so people can tell like I'm
Oh,
this album.
you're the master. That's why I'm learning, because I know a lot about Bruce Springsteen, but not as deep as you do. So let me see my other questions I have. Okay. So why do you think he had the midlife crisis? Was he starting to feel mental illness might be creeping in at that age? Like dad, we'll talk about his dad too. Like that's the age where most people start to either, if there's mental illness in your family, it either starts early, and you know this better than me, than being a psychologist.
Yeah.
Early 20s, like people get schizophrenia and stuff, or like in your 30s, like after you get married and you have success and stuff, but there's something that just you're not happy, or
Yeah.
there that like abuse that he witnessed as a kid. Not that he was abused, but God, it's got to be hard living with someone with mental illness as your parent, you know.
Yeah, for sure. You know what it is? I think Springsteen was, um, and it's interesting. It's so interesting how you raise that point because, um, well, I'll say first of all, Springsteen is a genius, the reason why I say this very similar to like Neil Peart. He could have gone on to like either write a book, direct a movie, but his artistic outlet was music, and I'll be honest with you, he was raised on rock and roll, right? That being said, though, he had a sort of a tough childhood where his father um, had a lot of mental health issues throughout his life, and apparently it worsened after. So that's like the first thing to understand. And this was already coming on the forefront on the River album. The song Independence Day, and there's another great song on Darkness on the Edge of Town called Adam Raised a Cain. He,
Right.
he vents these frustrations, and his relationship with his dad was not good because again,
Was he on
Springsteen,
speaking terms with his dad at this point, or are they?
I don't think so, not yet, maybe later, but he's still, again, you can kind of tell he's still. So that being said, right? So the reason why I say this is because he reaches the top, right? He has everything. He accomplishes his dreams. You would think, and this is a lesson for everybody out there, that just because you make it
Oh yeah.
doesn't mean he's satisfied. There's an emptiness in him. And I probably his memories of his dad, and again, you hear it on the album. A great example is the song, and let me just pull it out so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And I'll get back to the mental illness. I don't think Springsteen suffered from mental illness. I just think that he started to reflect more on remember I told you he felt nostalgic for his childhood friends,
Yeah.
family, his old home. Because you got to think about like when you're touring, you don't have a home,
No,
and it's
no.
kind of tough. But there's a song in Nebraska titled "Used Cars," where he says, like the day, Mister, the day of the lottery I win, I won't drive in no used car again. So, he reaches these dreams and he has
Well,
everything. You think that he's happy and he's not.
funny you say that. There's a clip in the trailer. They show him buying a car.
Yeah, dude. Again, like he has, he can afford to buy like I think he was into classic muscle cars or like
Yeah,
really expensive, like, those great muscle cars, like
yeah,
Chevys and all that. But yeah, he reaches this point where um he starts to think about his dad, and I think that's really important. And I think he internalized a lot of things of what he experienced growing up, right? And this is really important because his dad was a blue collar worker, very
right.
blue collar. He worked as, it kind of reminds me of my dad, where he worked as a bus driver and other odd jobs, right?
Yeah.
And and it's funny, his mom was the main breadwinner.
Oh,
He
really?
worked as a secretary. Um,
Well,
so
the father probably couldn't work having mental illness. He was
well,
probably,
well, it probably, it probably got worse, right?
yeah.
Um, And the other thing too that's really interesting is that he's Catholic, right? He was raised Catholic,
Hmm.
but he rebelled against he went to Catholic school, so he rebelled against the nuns, and he also, because he had that rebellious spirit, and so he was getting problems at the house, everywhere, and he has a funny little quote here where he said that his faith gave him a very active spiritual life for sure, but he joked that it made it very difficult sexually. And he once added, once a Catholic, always a Catholic. So he always wrestles with these ideas too, where, imagine he's on top of the world. He's getting all the girls he wants,
Yeah,
drugs, you know?
yeah,
But he's smart because he realized, and I'll be honest with you, he has to thank the Catholic faith because it's like philosophy. It makes you think what's most important in life, right? So, and again, I think it's like Dylan too. Dylan was, and just to make a little contrast here, Dylan's more mysterious. Um,
yeah,
but like Dylan, like these two didn't suffer mental illness, but definitely something was happening.
yeah, yeah.
They're so
There's always something in a creative genius like that, you know.
right, right, right. And with Bruce Springsteen case, his dad was definitely mentally, he presented mental problems.
What happened to his dad? Like, was he in World War II? Did he shell shock, or was he just something that?
As far as my understanding is his dad, I think, actually, let me look up that really quick. Um, I just know that Springsteen's dad like just worked in factories. I know he lost his hearing
Oh, okay.
factories, and again Springsteen. It's funny, Springsteen never was a blue collar worker, although you
Yeah.
would think the
Oh,
way
yeah.
he dresses and you know you would think that, oh yeah, Springsteen, but he's not. But he internalized everything so well. And again, not that he had mental health issues per se, but that he um just lived a hard life. The American dream was always far,
Right, right.
right? And it doesn't help that he didn't have a good relationship with his dad until obviously years later he reconciled. But yeah, dude, he worked in a factory. I don't think he was a veteran. He could have been,
Yeah,
it's by my understanding. But he had a feud with his dad as well, like at the point that he had to leave home.
oh, wow.
Yeah, so think about it. So he lacked, in a way, a father figure, right? That's really important.
Yeah.
What's really good that what he had is his relationship with his mother was special. And actually, it was his mother that bought him his first guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just the answer, no. So I think it's not really mental illness, but he internalized everything and had a Freudian, dive into his unconscious. And the stories he was reading probably, started to, you know, um, make him think, and his songwriting became very fruitful.
Do you know, would you say he had a bad childhood or no?
Uh, that's a great question. I would say, I would say no.
Right,
But as he grew older, right, and as he started to become a little more rebellious, then he started to have problems at home
right,
because, and if I remember correctly, he never fit in anywhere. And that's really another important point. He was always an outcast. And there was actually a former teacher that said that Springsteen was a loner. He was always alone and he wanted nothing but to play his guitar.
Right, right.
And get this, he graduates high school. He was so alienated that he skipped his graduation ceremony. He didn't even want to go. So
Well,
he tried to go to college, dropped out. And then he was called for the draft, the famous Vietnam
oh,
War draft, but luckily was able to opt out of it because I think he suffered some sort of like concussion or something.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then he avoided service in Vietnam War. So he was kind of lucky in
You
that.
got lucky. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And then in 1969, I think he moved to like California and with his sister, right? Um, well, no, no, I'm sorry. Springsteen's parents, so the whole family, the Springsteen family moved to California, right?
Oh, wow, from Jersey. Wow.
Yep, yep,
What a difference.
yep. And he stayed in New Jersey. I forgot to mention that. He stayed
Oh, okay, okay.
freehold. Yeah. So what I understand is that he was estranged from his family, especially his dad. And it's tough because, like those relationships are so important. And imagine what he saw his dad becoming, in a way beat down by
Yeah.
blue collar life. It's anyone knows, the blue collar life is, especially back then,
Oh, yeah.
it's a struggle. But yeah, I think he, you know what? I think he did have some sort of a sad childhood. So rock and roll was his outlet.
Right, right. Now, what was his big break? Like who discovered him to make?
So the one that discovered him was the famous John Landau.
Oh, okay.
So he became his manager, his like really good friend. And there's a quote that says, um, in no, no, I'm sorry, not John Landau. Well, first, big break. Okay, first, um, his manager Mike Appel, which later he'll kind of like, sue.
They all,
He brought him to the get this. He brought him to the attention of John Hammond
oh, wow.
at Columbia Records, 1972. Springsteen auditions for Hammond.
Who played with Dylan?
Hmm?
John Hammond played with Dylan,
Right.
and
So
John Hammond's father discovered Robert Johnson.
Right, right. And then and it's funny, Landau, who came after, he was a music critic, but sort of became also like his friend and manager
Yeah.
eventually. Um, and producer as well, in a way, co-producer. He said that I saw Springsteen and I saw the future of rock and roll, and its name is Springsteen. So
Wow.
that's how his big breaks came. One after,
Right.
now mind you, it wasn't easy. First debut didn't do that well.
Yeah.
Second record didn't do that well. Born to Run, massive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it took 3 albums,
Hmm.
like a lot of bands. Like look at Rush. I mean, it took Rush 4 albums to get to
Yeah.
2012. Although
Yep.
every before that, it's equally as good in my opinion. But it just to the rest of the world, it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's a great biography. So we covered a lot on his life and his career. I'm still just like the Charles Starkweather, being in this mindset. Like, why do you think he chose a serial killer? Like, what did he see in that guy?
Well, I can't. Yeah. So, wait, is that the question?
Yeah, like, what do you like?
Okay. It's very similar to why Dylan picked John Wesley Harding. Like
Right,
some
I was thinking that. I was thinking,
dude, very similar. And the reason why is because he was influenced by Flannery O'Connor. Now, and I kept trying to say this point with our true crime stuff. Even I see it. I hate to admit it, but the existence of these serial killers proves religion.
yeah,
And again, Springsteen Catholic has a great understanding of sin. And
yeah.
he sees people like Charles Starkweather, which again, Charles Starkweather, we're going to do an episode on this. I'm not even going to
Oh,
bother
yeah, yeah, yeah,
provide details. He was trying to understand why would someone do what he does? And even he became obsessed with true crime, right? Like us, where we're trying to
And
understand
Starkweather's girlfriend helped, so
like
he
really teenage girlfriend.
helped.
Yeah.
He influenced the girl to like help kill. And this is in the 50s, where like none of this shit really like. there weren't any. You didn't think there were crazy people in the '50s. Yeah, in the '60s, Manson and all these people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, because you try to understand, and Springsteen was already moving in this direction
Yeah,
with songs like, and just if I can do quick examples, because I'm trying to answer a question, why Starkweather, right? Like, what happened to Born to Run and like Lovers and Tramps? Why is he talking about like a horrific couple that are just slaughtering people left and
yeah.
right?
11 deaths.
It's horrifying,
Yeah,
and the song is haunting. I love it,
yeah, yeah.
but
It's a great
it
song.
is, dude, it is haunting. But one of the reasons why it's the direction that he was going, where he started on Darkness on the Edge of Town. Now, you could even argue going back further, but he had songs, for example, like on Darkness, he started now moving away from romanticism and embracing the stark. And again, look at the album cover. This is the album cover, so like representative of the album,
Uh,
where he realized life isn't romantic. What about the losers that don't make it? What about the people who are just trying to make it day by day, right?
yeah,
They run away, but things don't get better. So on Darkness, like songs like Badlands, The Promised Land, and by the way, Darkness on the Edge of Town, he's starting to talk about characters and that darkness that's there, all right? Okay, River. He does both, where he does happy rock songs. Again, we need you need to remember that Springsteen, like so, for example, another Dylan comparison. Dylan loved the blues. He actually wanted to, and now it's so obvious that he wanted to become a rock and roller,
yeah,
but used the folk to get there, right? But he always loved the blues, the Delta blues.
yeah.
Springsteen loved 1950s, Phil Spector, Buddy Holly. He loved
Right.
rock. This is the rock that he grew up in, Roy Orbison.
Hmm.
On the river, he has both sides, that. But then he also has songs like, and this is so like he has one great song, Stolen Car, Wreck on
Right.
the Highway, Drive All Night, which talks about these characters. Just so I can quote like a little bit on the Stolen Car song, which is fantastic. And just to quote a line, I'm driving a stolen car down on Elridge Avenue. Each night I wait to get caught, but I never do. Very psychopathic, right? So already he's
Rebel.
saying, why
A
would someone do
Dean-
this?
James Dean kind of rebel.
No, exactly. And so now going back to now the pinnacle of the songwriting, Starkweather. So he's already deep diving into Flannery O'Connor, which for those that don't know, I recommend. Her influence is you can hear it on this song, right?
I read her book Wise Blood a long time ago.
I'm gonna do like a Flannery O'Connor read to myself this summer, because I've been knowing when you mentioned Flannery O'Connor, I got excited.
Yeah.
Um, and the reason why, get this, the reason why he was inspired to write this song, first of all, obviously the Starkweather case, but he saw Terrence Malick's Badlands, right, on television. And the portrait in the opening lines of the girl standing in front of her lawn, twirling her baton, is from the movie.
Right, right.
And then he began researching. It's just like a perfect alignment. He would like us, like our true crime research. He began
Yeah.
researching the Starkweather killings. And Springsteen, and mind you, his song is not the accurate portrayal of the events, but he does a nice sketch where he's trying to understand why would he do this? And even then, the song doesn't offer a good answer. He just answers, I guess there's a meanness in this world. And that's the religion part of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the reason why, again, like us, he became this was his mindset. And especially with Flannery O'Connor, where it's so funny, but one of the last lines in one of her books, why did you kill all those people, right? And this is why Flannery O'Connor talks about this too. And again, that classic line, I guess there's just a meanness in this world. And this
Right.
story, A Good Man is Hard to Find, where the killer states, it's nothing for you to do but enjoy the few minutes you got left the best way you can. Look how dark this is. Either by killing somebody, or burning down his house, or doing some other meanness to him. No pleasure but meanness. So people, they think they get a thrill out of this.
Yeah.
So that's why he writes this strange song. And again, it's haunting. It's horrible.
Oh. Now, to get back into psychology for a second, those types of people that want to burn down the house or kill them
Yeah.
get into Freud. And, we were talking yesterday on the phone how Freud gets shit on all the time, but I still believe id, ego, and superego. So those people that are doing these bad things, they're lacking. What are they lacking? The id or the id, ego, or no, the ego, right? When they go out, I hate somebody, right? But
Yeah.
say I hate that person,
I love it, dude. They lack the superego, which is really
right?
important. And
And
that's why for Springsteen, and if you're a Catholic, which he was raised, and this, and I want to make sure like our audience not don't knows this point. He's very familiar with Catholic theology, familiar with the devil, sin, for
yeah,
example. And so Springsteen's a good guy, but he realizes that certain things motivate certain people to do horrible things. And like you said, back to the Freudian thing, these people like Starkweather lack the superego, right?
right,
For those that don't know, the superego, which develops later in childhood, that's all the moral standards and values you learn from parents and society. And so Springsteen, I don't know if you know this, he'll start to realize that maybe society is to blame for the creation of Starkweather. This comes later down the line, but already he's saying the seeds, and all the characters, and he builds these worlds. And just to go, Starkweather is operating totally on id, basic instinct and desires,
yeah.
hunger, sex, violence, right? And it's not coincidence that he takes on a teenage girl. So kind of like look, he
I
had,
wonder how he was at the time.
huh?
So, was he like maybe in his 20s or 30s when he committed these
Oh,
crimes?
great question. I can actually look that up really quick. But but he was, I'm trying to see, 18, and then he was introduced,
He was young.
but
Oh,
he was introduced to the 13-year-old girl. She was 13.
well, back then, you had what's his
But I mean, we're not trying to excuse
Jerry,
it. Back then, it was like kind of normal.
Jerry Lee Lewis married his 13-year-old cousin. I think in the 50s they didn't really give a shit about that.
No, no. But going back, just to answer, final answer, and again, the whole thing takes place behind me is one of the Nebraska roads.
Yeah,
It's all spooky, and Nebraska, I feel like that part of the USA is a bedrock for like psychopathic killers. Um, uh, just to quote the song, I killed everything in my path. He says, I can't say that I'm sorry, lacking the superego
right.
for the things that we've done. And then he says, and he's getting in, he's in court right now. But at least for a little while, sir, me and her, we had some fun. Now, and then he says here, now the jury brought in a guilty verdict. And the judge, he sentenced me to death. Midnight in a prison storeroom, leather straps across my chest. Now, mind this is think about it. He's like strapped in because he's about to go in the electric chair, right? And then he says, look at this, Sheriff, when the man pulls that switch, sir, and snaps my poor head back, you make sure that my pretty baby is sitting right there on my lap.
Wow.
And then this place declares me unfit to live. Said that great void, look at this, said, into that great void, my soul be hurled, hell. They wanted to know why I did what I did. And he said, well, sir, I guess there's just a meanness in this world.
Yeah.
And again, he lacks the super ego.
They didn't fuck around back then. They just they put you, they
And
killed
there
you.
you go.
You were a serial killer.
Oh yeah, and again, his final demise is the electric chair. And so Springsteen doesn't, the electric chair is controversial. What do we do with criminals like this, right? In those days, the electric chair was the solution,
Yeah,
but
because they were
Springsteen
like
is just telling a story and laying the seeds of a guy who lacks a super ego and ego and is operating totally on it. A lot of the songs in this album are characters operating on the id.
right,
They don't care about the consequences of society, or they don't care about social norms. It's the it at work. And
right.
and Springsteen, again, that's why I hope I answered your question, but that's why he wrote the song.
And they still had firing squads and they were hanging people.
Oh
But
yeah, especially that day. Yep.
now I wonder what happened to the girl being 13. Like, did they take her as being manipulated, or that wasn't even a thought back then?
Right. Actually, before I answer that, one thing I forgot about Starkweather, is that he developed a nihilistic worldview. Remember how I told you nihilism sets
Yeah.
you up for this? That's why nihilism is dangerous.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know, I just wanted to share that. But the girl, 14-year-old girlfriend, I think her pronounced it Carol Ann Fugate.
yeah,
And just to keep track of time, Cheech, probably have like 20 minutes ish. Do you have
yeah, yeah.
any questions?
Um, well, yeah, I was gonna jump into born.
Yeah, we'll go quick. I won't go on these rants, but just to answer Carl and Claire, she was paroled, served 18 years in prison in 1976. So she
Oh,
and
so she went to prison. She ended up
yep,
going to jail.
yep.
Okay, so she didn't get the death penalty or any crazy shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because Starkweather was sentenced to death and executed in the electric chair on like 1959, and Carol, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She was just no, she was just in prison
Okay,
and
when
and,
she got out
and
in 76,
paroled.
paroled in
And
76,
just lived a normal life, apparently.
probably she might still be alive.
That's a good question. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, she's probably still alive.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see interviews with her. Like,
I can't wait. Not to go into too much details, but we're gonna have a true crime episode about this.
yeah. So yeah, no, don't got a lot of time. So 1984, Born in the USA comes out, and the stars align for this guy.
Oh, it's the moving pictures of Rush.
Yeah, I mean, so what happens?
Okay, so little thing called MTV. I Want My MTV comes
Uh,
out, and this MTV, and again, the reason why I mention this is because of MTV, Springsteen became the most biggest thing on the planet. Like it's crazy how to think of his meteoric rise, especially um, after Nebraska. But in 1984, right, uh, he decides now again, going back to those songs, those sessions that he recorded with the E Street Band. Um, Apparently the sessions, like I think he recorded like 70, 90 songs, man. Like
right.
he did a lot during
Oh,
those
yeah.
recording sessions. And it's crazy he wasn't satisfied, which is even nuts.
I know.
Um, but what ended up happening was he returned. So he got back after Nebraska, and
Mhm.
obviously, I'll be honest with you, it did sell well, but it didn't sell in that well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It did well. I think it went like multi-platinum like two
It
times.
could have been a career destroyer for him if his next album sucked.
Like yeah, because imagine it. Yeah, because if he didn't follow up a great album, like yeah, who would have known, right?
Yeah,
Um, but so he starts re-recording again, and what ends up happening was this is, I will say, Born in the USA is the sound that Springsteen did not want, that did not like.
right.
Crazy. And so one of the demos, for example, Born in the USA, if you hear the original one is like a Delta blues style song. Well, it's not Delta blues, but it has that haunting,
Right, right.
um, sort of like, you know, uh, haunting element to it.
Yeah,
But again, those sessions, right, is what would go on Born in the USA. So he was pretty much, you can argue Born in the USA. Remember I told you the 1950s rock on the river? It
yeah.
was that, but more concise and more just influenced by the sounds of the day.
Wow.
But Born in the USA, what ended up happening was that and if you hear it, it's kind of crazy. The sound of it is in complete opposite of Nebraska, right? But the topics remain the same. So it's sort of one of these things that just the stars aligned. And I will say, I always argue that this record was the record that Springsteen was not satisfied with. He didn't, it's not that he hated it, like he didn't like the how the East Street Band got his music, and you can even hear it. For example, Born in the USA, the song sounds majestic, grand, patriotic. It's
Yeah,
one of the greatest rock songs of all time.
right, right.
The lyrics are depressing. It's about a returning Vietnam War vet who is an outcast, shunned by society. No
Yeah,
one thanks him and ends up on prison.
Wow.
It's pretty, so to answer your question, like what happened and why this album is because this was the continuance of the river, right? Those themes, and then I'm throwing Nebraska a little bit. And then when he returned with the E Street Band, this was the material, not all of it, but a lot
Yeah.
of it that he was not satisfied with. But then he starts to release as an album. And
And then he had the MTV going for him, and the '80s production, which was like,
right,
this is not Born to Run production. Like that's like '70s analog, and you listen to how like Born to Run sounds. It's such a great '70s album, 1975 analog. Born in the USA is 1984, a decade later, and it's very digital, overproduced in a good way. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
all those bands. The drums were always had that, like reverb on it and stuff like that. And by the way, great rhythm section. Love this. I can't. What's his drummer's name? I can't think of his name.
Oh, the mighty Max Weinberg. He's so good. He has
And
one of the best like drum sounds.
something Hellgate, the bass player, or something like that.
Gary Talent,
Yeah,
the big
great,
phenomenal. Yeah. Dude,
great,
his rhythm section, man.
yeah, and the great Clarence Clemens. Amazing.
No, and it's crazy. This album transformed him. Like again, it's
But wait a second, little Stevie. How could we? How
oh,
could
Stevie's Van Zandt, his backing vocals and lead, sometimes lead guitar and rhythm.
unfortunately gets people forget who he is because of the Sopranos.
This one, I always thought Van Zandt because of the history, the opposite way. That's kind of funny.
I always knew who he was, and I loved his look with the bandana. And then he was on The Sopranos, and I'm like, wait, the guy from the E Street Band? And then
It's
The
so
Sopranos,
funny.
of course, being from New Jersey, blew up, and he became this mob guy. And whenever I think of him, I don't even think of Little Stevie. And he did a lot of cool stuff in the '80s. He did a lot of charity work for Africa and stuff too. You know, he was known for a lot. Great player.
Oh, one more thing, Cheech, and it's crazy. In another world, another lifetime, he would have released this as a double album with the acoustic Nebraska. As like, imagine if he did that. Like
Oh man,
that would be
went to work in
crazy.
'94.
Yeah. So in 1982, like just one more thing, and then I'll stop here. Um, um, and again, like these songs were everything. And it's crazy. And at the same time, MTV blew up. It's like the stars aligned, and it's crazy. And talk about. Remember, I told you he got into this depression.
Yeah,
I just want to comment on one more thing. Is um, that Springsteen at the same time made some lifestyle changes.
yeah,
And apparently, you talk about mental illness. I'll be honest with you, I think he was suffering with something.
right.
I think it's depression. And he actually went to therapy and began to work on his physique and joined a weight training program.
He used to drive around his old house,
Yep.
and the
Yep.
therapist said that's not a good idea. Try to like get.
Yeah, because he again, I get it. Like I think I think our fathers probably experienced this depression where no, it's just life, and
Yeah,
especially if you have a hard life like that, I could see that.
yeah.
Um, but uh, this album, like you said, so produced, and it embraced the '80s sound, even songs like "Dancing in the Dark," and we're going to do an episode on Born in the USA, right, Chief?
Oh yeah. I mean, I
Oh, wait,
lived.
wait, did I answer your question though?
Yeah.
Did I answer
Oh
your
yeah,
question?
yeah, yeah. No, definitely, yeah. Like I lived it. So in 1984, like I don't remember Nebraska in 1982. I always remember Born to Run. MTV played that video later on. The classic live footage and that concert. They would play that concert. But like, I remember hearing that shit on the radio as a kid. I knew who Bruce Springsteen was, and then all of a sudden, he's a pop star
Yeah.
on MTV. Right behind Michael Jackson, Prince, and Madonna is Bruce Springsteen. He's literally the biggest thing on MTV, and Bon Jovi too. Being from New Jersey, and to bring Bon Jovi up, that's who Bon Jovi wanted to be,
Yeah.
but in a
New
hard rock,
Jersey.
in a
Right.
rock version. Who didn't want to be that from Jersey? If you're from New Jersey, everybody wanted to be Bruce Springsteen. And there was another great band, Southside Johnny.
Yep. Yep. They actually ran into each other. Yep. But
Yeah,
they didn't go anywhere. They didn't explode. Like they were famous, but they didn't.
they rode the coattails of him for a while. They were like Triumph and Rush, you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. Although Triumph was way more successful than Southside Johnny, but yeah, you answered all
No.
the
And,
questions.
and just one more thing, Cheech. Had Springsteen not released Nebraska, this would have been the follow-up to The River, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, and like I think I covered the river in the band many moons ago, and that song was just so much fun to play and so depressing. It's such a, like you said, it's like a Cats in the Cradle,
Mhm.
father and sons
I
kind of.
feel like some people can't listen to it because it just ends. It, it's just so sad,
Yeah,
real to life.
yeah. So what do we got left? Like 5 minutes.
Yeah, how many questions you got? We'll do a speed through.
So yeah, no, I think we covered up all the Bruce Springsteen stuff. Thank you. And in the future, we're definitely gonna do. We're gonna start with the river, and we'll go backwards. Born to Run, come back up. All those other albums, up to the river and Born in the USA. Uh, so like that's my new obsession. And thank you for educating me on this because this was a point of this free what do you call it, our free talk
Hmm.
podcast, but it's more of a Bruce Springsteen Nebraska preview,
Right.
kind of. And you're a Springsteenologist.
I will admit, like I love Springsteen. Like any opportunity I can get to talk about him, I'll take it.
Yeah. So want to just end it on the last episode, and
Yeah.
so basically, we had probably one of our most successful podcasts of all time. 1,000 views.
For us, yeah, it's amazing.
And I just like to say, thank you, Manny Grossman.
Thank you, Manny Grossman.
Yeah,
It was such an honor to talk to you, listen to you, and just I was quiet because I was so engrossed by Manny Grossman.
yeah. Dude, he knows his shit about the Son of Sam. I learned so much, and for me that I followed him all these years, and to have him on the show was like a big deal for me. And I wish him the best of luck. He's now retired from the Son
Mhm.
of Sam, supposedly, but I know in him, I think he'll pop back up. I don't think you retire from that stuff, but he feels what he did, and there's no more research on it for
I
him.
mean, it's phenomenal what he did. I mean,
Yeah,
it's for
he,
true crimers. I mean,
yeah,
goals, you know.
but the crazy thing is I didn't know there was such a backlash in the true crime world, whether
Uh,
Son of Sam or I think it's more of the Son of Sam world because I've spoken to some people in that world, and there's a lot of I don't know what it is, whether it's competition or just people talked shit and they make a lot of enemies. So I couldn't believe the comments we got. I was like, we're still getting them. We're still getting these crazy comments. So there's a lot of haters towards them, which I feel bad for the guy, but that's I guess something that happens when you're in that world. And for us, like we don't want that. We want positive
oh no.
and
We're
that.
all about positivity and Cheech, I think I hope I speak on your behalf too. We welcome all views in terms
Oh
of we let people speak their piece. I have no I have no like I just love to learn. So even if someone is totally out there, like I love to hear them out,
yeah,
see what they say. I'm not about the negativity. I'm not about the negative comments.
yeah.
I'm not about bringing someone down. I'm not even about smearing someone's reputation.
No,
Even
no.
if someone's wrong, it's okay. Let's have a conversation. And I think that's the us our goal. Like
Yeah, yeah. But overall, it was a great show. That the Rush portion
loved it.
was good,
You were really good at you were so good in it that I think he was impressed.
well, I'm a Son of Sam scholar, will always be, and I'm been talking to other Son of Sam researchers too about learning other things. So it's fun. I did, if anything, this expanded my Son of Sam research, and I'm learning from other people. But it all goes back to this. To me, it all goes back to Maury Terry versus whether it's Manny's theory or other people's theory. He was a lone killer or was there a satanic cult? That's the thing that fuels people. Some people believe in the Maury Terry theory, like the Carl Denaro theory that like there's a satanic cult that did it, and then there's the Manny Grossman theory that he acted alone, and many other people.
Which would be like the Stark weather when they ask him, "Why'd you do it?"
Yeah,
Oh, I
exactly.
acted, it's just,
Yeah.
you know,
Was the Son of Sam a Starkweather, or was the Son of Sam in a cult in Yonkers? And that's the question only he knows. And as time goes by, less and less, people are gonna know. I mean, people like Billy the Artist. I thought I saw Billy the Artist recently in Kohl's shopping center in Portchester.
no.
I saw this big fat guy with this weird voice, and I was like, wait a second. Did I say something to this guy? I would, with my luck, it would be him.
Yeah.
But I've heard different theories about that Billy the Artist passed away, and and then that really
A
was.
whole world out there. A lot of urban myths,
There's so
urban
many
legends.
stories about the
Crazy.
Son of Sam is it's like all over the place. You don't know the truths from the lies. There's a lot of great books out there, and you know what? That's the beauty of it. I think the mystery, because once you figure out like the mystery, it's
Yep.
over. So I don't think the Son of Sam. I think 100 years from now, there's going to be podcasters talking about the Son of Sam, just like Jack the Ripper, H. Holmes. It's going to be going on forever.
Hmm.
But thank you, Manny Grossman, for being on the
Yeah,
show.
thank you, man. Yeah, it was an honor.
It was the best viewings we had, besides the crazy replies.
And
But
hopefully we can get him back on to talk Rush, which
yeah, yeah,
we gotta
yeah.
talk more about,
Talk
Wink,
more
but we
about
gotta
Russ.
talk more about Neil Peart.
Yeah, and definitely wish him the best. And we'll definitely do Starkweather as the next true crime.
Yeah,
Thank,
yeah,
thank
love it.
thank to your brothers for liking our true crime episodes, because I
Yeah,
was a little nervous about that, because like I'm
no,
out of my
don't
comfort
be.
zone. I'm music is everything,
Yep.
but true crime, it was like,
You're the expert. I am way out of my. I'm like, I mean, obviously, I love the psychology of it, but it's funny. One of my brothers, shout out to Damien, who's a graphic designer in New York. He said that those episodes were so riveting, like they were
oh,
really good.
tell him thank you so much, because it means so much to me. Because like I really enjoyed them. I enjoyed writing them, and we'll get back into it.
Yeah. Anything else, Cheech? Final things?
No, I think we're good. I know you're off to the temple.
Uh,
Thing.
Sadly, I'm off to the brainwashing cult.
Yes,
It's
yes.
crazy because you go in there as soon as you wire in, it's like you put on a hat and you're like,
Y-
like
Yeah, you're in there, and you're being everything you do. You're being watched.
we are the priests.
I'm telling you, it's like
Temple.
Rush probably. They were like Nostradamuses for the future.
No, even Bob Dylan. When I I'm just trying to use hidden language. When I link in, I'm like, I ain't gonna work on
I,
my.
I know. And the owner of the temple, congratulations to him on his wedding day. He's getting married today, I think.
Who? Wait, use code words. B?
Uh, yeah, the guy who owns the portion of the temple that bought out the temple.
Okay, shout out to him. Yeah.
Yeah,
All worship the major priest, the bishop.
congratulations to we I won't say his name, but everybody knows. Everybody buys products off of his thing.
I hate to admit it, I'm that person. I love Amazon.
Genius. I gotta admit, the guy's a freaking genius.
Oh, just the fact that he bought Whole Foods, I'm like, yeah, man. Like,
But
good
like,
for
he's
you.
a genius at what he does. But I think he should stay away from supermarkets. This is my opinion. But anyway, congratulations to him in his wedding day.
Love it.
So, but all right, man, this was fun. This is different, and I'm gonna get cracking on Bob Dylan, definitely. And I mean Bob Dylan. It's like Bruce Springsteen. I gotta
Yeah, I'm so
rewind.
excited to
Went from
drive this road
Yes.
No.
I, I went from Bob Dylan, True Crime, Son of Sam. Now it's a.
Oh, no, but they are connected though.
Think about it. Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, and True Crime are connected. They all are. John West
Oh,
Harding,
Bob
you know,
Dylan, Outlaw Blues,
Dark
Springsteen.
Dark Weather. It's all folk rock, depression, midlife crises. It's insane.
And just one thing. Actually, we'll leave it for the. I love so much psychological insight about this album cover, but we'll leave it for that episode.
Yeah.
But Cheech, man, this was so much fun. I can't wait to do it again. We'll
Thank you.
definitely do more of these free-form Q&A stuff.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you, man.
much for your knowledge on Mr. Springsteen.
High compliment.
I learned so much.
Springsteen scholar. So I'm a Beatles scholar and Springsteen scholar, but
You're a huge scholar.
specialties.
Definitely. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, man. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Cheech, I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to be recording In Through the Outdoor Led Zeppelin with
Yeah.
Mr. Joe Silkman. So I cannot wait. All right, Cheech.
Have a good one.
You too, brother.
Take
Take
care.
it easy.
Bye-bye.
Until the next one.
Take care.